Hi guys, so I recently visited Kylotonn Game Studio in Paris for a behind the scenes look at WRC 6 to see how the game is coming along ahead of its release in October. So we started with a presentation with game director Alan Journoux. He's worked on games in the past such as V-Rally 3 and the Test Drive Unlimited series, as well as last year's WRC 5 of course. So he talked us through some of the main improvements made to WRC 6, from the redesigned stages and improved graphics and car handling. They've improved the vehicle dynamics, such as the suspension and the feeling of weight. Obviously all the official teams and drivers from this year's season appear in the game, from the junior class to WRC 2 and of course WRC. Here you can see the developers demonstrating some of the new dynamic effects in WRC 6. There's some nice water splash effects there. Then they showed us some of the new super special stages. There are 11 super special stages in WRC 6 in total. Many of them are set in cities and stadiums, and you can race head to head in some of them as well. They're based on the real life stages, so they've been reproduced with one-to-one accuracy. You can see they had a video too playing some of the real circuits alongside the gameplay, just to show how closely they matched up. I also spoke with the lead vehicle artist of WRC 6. He showed me how the cars are constructed from the original CAD models sent by the manufacturers, and how they use reference photos to get some of the details just right, such as the headlights. Apparently some of the cars have been completely remodelled this year as well, for better accuracy, such as the Volkswagen Polo and the Hyundai, and they've also made tweaks to some of the existing cars as well to make them more authentic. He also told me that the damage modelling has been completely revamped in WRC 6, which was a nice surprise. It's now completely dynamic, so everything is deformable, which is a big improvement on WRC 5 and good to see. Then it was time for WRC 3 champion Sébastien Chardonnay to show me how it's done. Being a real rally driver, he of course had considerable car control. He also used his experience to help the team improve the handling model and physics, and showed them how to set up the cars for different surfaces such as snow, gravel and asphalt, and you can really tell the difference in the handling. Of course I had to have a go to try and beat his time, and let's just say I didn't do quite as well. I also had a chance to try WRC 6 in VR using the Oculus Rift headset, which is very impressive and very immersive. Unfortunately they couldn't get the wheel working with it at the time, so I had to make do with a controller. Sadly, it's only really a tech demo at this stage though. VR support won't be available at release in WRC 6 because they want to really gauge the market interest to see if it's worth investing development in VR. You've got to bear in mind of course that just because a particular stage works in VR, it doesn't mean the whole game will when you factor in things like weather conditions and things like that could affect the performance. So there's a lot of optimization to be done if they were to port it to a full VR game. So on to gameplay. We start here in Spain. This was all running on the PC in glorious 4K resolution, using a wheel with all assists off, but we will also be looking at the PS4 version. You can immediately tell that the visuals are a step up from WRC 5. In the previous game last year they were quite dated, so you can see they put a lot more resources into the visuals. There's a lot more detail in the environments, the stages are narrower and longer this time, which makes it more challenging and authentic, and the lighting has been improved as well to look more realistic.
And left 5, short, over crest, into right 5, into left 3, short, 50.
You can see some nice replay camera angles here. I particularly like this overhead shot that really shows you the scale of the environments. You can also hear some of the improved audio effects. Apparently 95% of the audio has been redesigned in WRC 6. I'd say the engines sound more aggressive, but they're still not quite as good as Dirt Rally. On to Wales. I like the fact you can now see the other drivers competing at the start line and driving off. Although I don't think they're true staggered starts, they're still competing with ghost times. It's a small touch, but it adds to the atmosphere. There's a lot more crowds as well on this stage, which also helps liven it up a bit.
Crest into right 3.
Again, you can see the better looking environments here, There's a much bigger variety of foliage and vegetation, which makes the stages look more realistic. Also, the dips on the edge of the track are no longer flat, so if your wheels go off the road, it will unsettle the car, which makes it a lot more challenging. Co-driver commands as well are much more accurate this time. In WRC 5 I found the commands to be a bit late sometimes. Apparently Sebastian Chardonnay, the rally driver, devised a new system to make them more precise. It's a shame though that it's still obvious the recordings have been cut and pasted. They just don't flow quite as well as Dirt Rally still. They don't sound quite as natural. But even so, they are an improvement over WRC 5. As for the driving, well, the wheel setup was a bit too sensitive for my liking on the day. Apparently Sebastian didn't have time to set it up properly, and time was short on the day. I would say though the cars had a better sense of weight, but they were still very responsive. Driving without assist, it was easier to lose control if I wasn't smooth with my steering, brake and throttle inputs. But on the whole, this is still a very forgiving ride compared to Dirt Rally and Sebastian Loeb. But then again, it is a licensed game, so it's important to attract a wide audience and make sure they're still able to play the game and have fun without it being too frustrating. I think WRC 6 does strike a good balance there. Having said that, the redesigned stages are a lot more challenging. Sweden is still one of the most challenging rallies of its snow stages. The way the car reacts to different surfaces is more realistic now, and in the snow I often struggle to get good grip. Again, the stages just look more realistic now and closer to how they are in real life. They're not laser scan though. There just simply isn't enough time for the developer to laser scan all 14 locations when they have such short development times for an annual series like WRC. But they've used landmarks of each location to still make you feel like you're there. New to WRC 6 is the Rally China. Probably not the most exciting of rallies if I'm honest. It just looks a bit too bland and uninspired really compared to the other stages in the game. But nevertheless, it's still a new rally set on mountain roads. It was supposed to feature in this year's official calendar, ironically, for the first time in nearly 20 years, but it had to be cancelled because of storm damage, so WRC 6 is the only way you'll get to see it this year.
30.
The new super special stages were a definite highlight though. This one's set in a military base in Germany actually. There's some very tight turns and hairpins and lots of trackside obstacles trying to catch you out if you cut the corners, so you really have to concentrate. But it was great fun. I enjoyed the super special stages a lot. And they worked particularly well in split screen as well with the head-to-head challenges. Overall, WRC 6 is looking like a positive step forward. I think Kylotonn have clearly responded to the criticisms of WRC 5 and made some considerable improvements, considering they've had less than a year to make it. Anyway, that's it for this WRC 6 preview. You can read a developer interview on the website, and we'll have more WRC 6 content on the channel very soon.